At 78 years old, Arnold Schwarzenegger just did something he's rarely done since 2019. He broke his silence with words that left the bodybuilding world absolutely stunned. 6 years after losing the man he called his true partner, Arnold posted a photo that stopped everyone in their tracks. Two legends sitting across from each other, cigars in hand, locked in their final chess match. The caption read something nobody expected to hear from the Terminator himself. He declared that Franco Columbu, despite being gone for over half a decade, remains with him every single morning. The admission sent shockwaves through millions of fans who thought they knew everything about their bond. But here's what almost nobody realizes about this friendship. The real story goes far deeper than what the cameras captured during their glory days. Arnold's recent confessions have exposed secrets that change everything we thought we understood about these two icons. What happened between them wasn't just about lifting weights or winning trophies. It was about two young immigrants who pulled off schemes that would make your jaw drop. It was about betrayals on stage that nearly destroyed their brotherhood. And it involved a tragedy that Arnold saw coming but couldn't prevent. What you're about to discover will completely reshape how you see the greatest partnership in bodybuilding history. Their story begins in Munich, 1965. Picture this. Two young men, both far from home, both hungry for something more than what life had handed them. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Austrian oak, walks into a bodybuilding competition expecting another routine victory. Then he spots someone who would alter the entire trajectory of his existence. Franco Columbu. This compact Italian powerhouse from Sardinia stood barely over 5 feet tall but possessed strength that defied every law of physics. The moment their eyes met across that crowded venue, something clicked. It wasn't rivalry. It wasn't jealousy. It was instant recognition of a kindred spirit. Arnold would later admit something that shocked his critics. When he first arrived in America in 1968, he felt completely lost. He'd abandoned his family, his homeland, everything familiar. The loneliness ate at him daily, so he made a decision that would define his future. He went straight to Joe Weider, the godfather of bodybuilding, and made an unusual request. Bring Franco Columbu to America. Not for competition, not for publicity. Because Arnold knew a truth that most people never understand. He could survive without money. He could thrive without his parents' approval. But without Franco by his side, something essential was missing. That vulnerability, that raw honesty, reveals more about Arnold's character than any movie role ever could. What nobody talks about is how these two bodybuilding legends actually made their first fortune. Before the Mr. Olympia titles, before Hollywood called, Arnold and Franco were running an operation that would make you question everything. They started a bricklaying company called European Brickwork. Sounds innocent enough, right? Wrong. These two masterminds developed a scheme so clever that their customers never saw it coming. They would deliberately create fake arguments right in front of clients. Arnold would start throwing around terms like centimeters, meters, and Austrian shillings. Franco would counter with Italian measurements. The confused homeowner would stand there watching these two muscular Europeans seemingly fighting about the project. Then came the genius part. After their stage dispute, they'd quote a price like $4,388 for a job that actually cost around $2,000. The customer felt like they were getting a bargain because the price seemed so specific and negotiated. Arnold revealed this hustle years later on Jimmy Kimmel Live, laughing about how they made serious money from those theatrical performances. But it gets even more questionable. Arnold once recalled an incident where Franco did something during a bricklaying job that was borderline illegal. They had to go back and remove everything Franco had done to avoid serious consequences. The details remain murky, but it shows these two weren't just training partners. They were partners in schemes that pushed ethical boundaries. The training relationship between Arnold and Franco reveals a dynamic that most people completely misunderstand. On the surface, they appeared to be equals pushing each other toward greatness. But Arnold's own words from Pumping Iron exposed something darker underneath. During filming, Arnold looked straight at the camera and declared that Franco was pretty smart, but ultimately just a child. He positioned himself as Franco's father figure. Think about that power dynamic for a second. Here's Arnold telling the world that his supposed best friend and training partner is intellectually beneath him. That his close companion needs paternal guidance. The statement reveals Arnold's ruthless competitive psychology. He didn't just want to beat Franco. He wanted to maintain dominance even in their friendship. Arnold would use mind games that border on manipulation to extract more performance from Franco. One famous incident at Gold's Gym demonstrates this perfectly. They were squatting with 500 pounds when Franco suddenly stopped, claiming exhaustion. Arnold didn't encourage him or offer support. Instead, he walked over to some women nearby and started chatting. When he returned, Arnold casually mentioned that those women didn't believe Franco could squat that weight. Franco's ego kicked in instantly. He grabbed those weights and banged out 10 more reps just to prove Arnold wrong. His body was screaming in agony, but his mind had been hijacked. Arnold later wrote about this with pride, explaining how the mind controls everything. But was it friendship or manipulation? Yet, despite these power games, Franco possessed something Arnold could never claim. Pound for pound, Franco Columbu was legitimately stronger than Arnold Schwarzenegger. This compact Italian could deadlift over 700 pounds, blow up hot water bottles until they exploded, and literally lift cars off the ground. Arnold had the height advantage that judges loved. Franco had raw, terrifying strength packed into a 5'5" frame. Arnold acknowledged this years later, admitting that Franco didn't receive the recognition he deserved because bodybuilding judging favored taller physiques. The sports bias kept Franco from achieving Arnold-level fame despite possibly being the superior athlete. That quiet resentment simmered beneath their partnership for years. The 1980 Mr. Olympia stands as one of the most controversial moments in sports history, and Franco Columbu was right there in the middle of it. Arnold had been retired for 5 years, building his Hollywood career. Then suddenly, just 24 hours before the Sydney competition, he announced his comeback. Competitors were furious. Mike Mensa almost physically attacked Arnold at the press conference. But here's what the documentaries don't show you. The night before the competition, Franco was in Arnold's hotel room watching his best friend pose. Arnold had taken a cortisone shot for a shoulder injury that caused severe water retention. Franco looked at Arnold's physique and basically called him an idiot, asking how they were going to shed all that excess water. Arnold spent the entire night in a heated room, posing until he literally collapsed from exhaustion. Competition day arrived with Arnold looking decent but nowhere near his prime. Most experts put him at maybe 80 to 90% of his peak conditioning. During the pre-judging rounds, something bizarre happened that cameras caught on film. Arnold was standing slightly off-center, out of the best stage lighting. Franco Columbu, supposedly just a spectator, suddenly rushed onto the stage with a towel. He whispered urgently in Arnold's ear, telling him to move into better lighting. Think about what that means. Franco was actively coaching Arnold during the actual competition, giving him an unfair advantage while other competitors got no such assistance. When Arnold was declared the winner over clearly superior physiques, the audience erupted in boos. Frank Zane threw his trophy at a wall. Mike Mensa retired from bodybuilding entirely, claiming corruption destroyed the sport. Roger Walker compared Arnold's victory to wearing a stolen watch. CBS Sports had purchased broadcast rights but refused to air the footage after reviewing what happened. Franco defended Arnold immediately, telling anyone who would listen that Arnold was good enough to win despite not being at his best. But was Franco protecting his friend or protecting their shared secrets? Because what happened the following year makes you question everything about their loyalty to each other versus their loyalty to the truth. Just 1 year later, Arnold and his business partner Jim Lorimer were promoting the 1981 Mr. Olympia in Columbus, Ohio. And who decided to make a shocking comeback? Franco Columbu. After suffering a devastating leg injury at the 1977 World's Strongest Man competition, Franco had been told by doctors he might never walk properly again. He disappeared from competitive bodybuilding for nearly half a decade. But watching Arnold's controversial victory apparently inspired Franco to attempt his own comeback story. The timing couldn't have been more suspicious. Frank Zane, the 3-time defending champion, boycotted the event because of Arnold's tainted victory. Mike Mensa boycotted. Boyako boycotted. The biggest names in bodybuilding refused to legitimize what they saw as a corrupt system. This left the door wide open for Franco to waltz in and claim a title against a weakened field. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Franco showed up to that competition in arguably the worst shape of any Mr. Olympia winner in history. He was suffering from visible gynecomastia. His legs showed clear imbalance from the injury, and his conditioning was frankly terrible compared to competitors like Tom Platz, Chris Dickerson, and Danny Padilla. Yet when the judges announced Franco as the winner, even the loyal fans couldn't stomach it. The audience booed mercilessly. Competitors walked off stage in disgust. Roy Callender completely ignored Franco and went straight to congratulate second-place finisher Chris Dickerson. People called it bodybuilding's darkest moment. The sport's credibility was circling the drain. And who was promoting this corrupted competition? Arnold Schwarzenegger, Franco's best friend and business partner. The optics were devastating. Critics accused them of rigging back-to-back Olympias to benefit Arnold and his inner circle. CBS once again refused to air what they had filmed. The International Federation of Bodybuilding was so embarrassed they immediately changed judging procedures to prevent promoters from having any influence over judge selection. Franco had won his title, but at what cost to his legacy and the sport itself? Yet despite all the controversies, all the manipulations, all the questionable victories, something genuine existed between these two men. The complexity of their relationship goes beyond simple friendship or rivalry. Franco Columbu served as best man at Arnold's wedding to Maria Shriver. He became godfather to Arnold's daughter Christina. They lived together for years, made homemade wine in Franco's garage, and Arnold personally helped construct Franco's house with his own hands. They would spend hours playing chess, not for competition but for the pure enjoyment of each other's company. Arnold appointed Franco to the California Board of Chiropractic Examiners when he became governor. Their lives were so deeply intertwined that separating Arnold's success from Franco's influence became impossible. Arnold admitted something in his Netflix documentary that reveals the depth of their connection. He acknowledged that Franco never received the recognition he deserved because of his height. The sports bias toward taller physiques meant Franco would always be overshadowed despite being pound for pound superior. But Arnold didn't abandon his friend when Hollywood came calling. Franco appeared in The Terminator, Conan the Barbarian, and The Running Man. Arnold made sure Franco got roles, got opportunities, stayed relevant. They trained Sylvester Stallone together for the Rocky films. When Arnold needed someone he could trust absolutely, he turned to Franco. When Franco needed someone to champion his career beyond his physical limitations, Arnold answered that call. Their partnership transcended the stage politics and shady comebacks. Something real existed underneath all the complications. Then came August 30th, 2019. Franco Columbu was back in his native Sardinia, enjoying a vacation in the Mediterranean waters he'd known since childhood. At 78 years old, just 23 days after his birthday, Franco went for a swim off the coast of San Teodoro. Witnesses reported he began feeling unwell in the water. Emergency services were called immediately. A helicopter rushed him toward John Paul II Hospital in nearby Olympia. But somewhere during that desperate flight, Franco Columbu's heart gave out. The man who'd once deadlifted over 700 pounds, who'd literally lifted cars, who'd survived a career-ending leg injury that should have left him unable to walk, couldn't survive this final moment. He was pronounced dead upon arrival. The news hit Arnold like a physical blow. Within hours, he sat down and wrote something that would circulate across the internet, bringing millions to tears. He published a tribute on Medium titled simply, "To My Best Friend." The words came from somewhere deep and raw. Arnold admitted he was devastated, but also grateful for 54 years of friendship and joy. He listed everything they'd shared: the workouts, the chess games, the construction projects, the meals, the pranks, the life lessons. He wrote about how they'd pushed each other, competed against each other, and laughed through every moment. Arnold confessed that Franco was part of why he could never accept the label of self-made man. From the minute they met in Munich, Franco had been his partner in crime. When Arnold arrived alone in America, feeling lost and isolated, he specifically asked Joe Weider to bring Franco because he knew he couldn't thrive without his best friend. The tribute continued with a promise that would define Arnold's grief for years to come. He pledged to look after Franco's wife Debbie and daughter Maria. He wanted Franco to rest without worries, knowing his family would be protected. Arnold closed with words that captured their entire relationship. "I love you, Franco. I will always remember the joy you brought to my life, the advice you gave me, and the twinkle in your eye that never disappeared. You were my best friend." That phrase, "you were my best friend," carried decades of complicated history. The competitions, the controversies, the power dynamics, the genuine love, all of it compressed into one simple declaration of loss. But Arnold's revelations about Franco didn't end with that initial tribute. In 2023, 4 years after Franco's passing, Arnold appeared in his Netflix documentary simply titled Arnold. When the interview turned to Franco, something remarkable happened. Arnold's voice changed. The confidence and bravado that typically define him melted away. He started browsing through old photographs, finding images of him and Franco from their early days. Arnold began speaking about meeting Franco when he was just 18 years old. How they trained together, competed together, inspired each other despite Franco being significantly stronger pound for pound. Then Arnold said something that revealed his lingering guilt and regret. He acknowledged that Franco didn't get the recognition he deserved because of his height, that it was always the tall guy who won in the end. The way Arnold's voice caught when discussing this injustice showed he understood how the system had failed his friend. Arnold described how sensitive he'd always been toward Franco, constantly trying to help him get opportunities. When Arnold became a movie star, he didn't leave Franco behind. He made sure his friend got roles, got screen time, stayed relevant. Arnold talked about how they'd lived together, made wine together, how he'd helped Franco build his house. Then came the line that broke viewers: "It's been the greatest, the closest relationship that I've had with any guy." Arnold concluded by saying he wished everyone could have a friend like Franco, and if you don't, you're missing out on something profound. The clip went viral immediately. Bodybuilding fans flooded social media with condolences, with their own stories of friendship, with appreciation for Arnold's vulnerability. Many commented that Franco's segment was the most moving part of the entire documentary. The revelations continued into On what would have been Franco's 84th birthday, Arnold posted another tribute that offered new insight into his daily life without his best friend. He encouraged his followers to reach out to the people they love, explaining his philosophy about death and connection. Arnold wrote that when friends and family pass away, they aren't really gone. They're like ships that sailed over the horizon. We can't see them anymore, but they're still present, still part of our lives. Then Arnold admitted something that shows how deeply Franco's absence affects him. He revealed that Franco is with him every single day, even 6 years after passing. He hears Franco's voice when he counts his repetitions during workouts. Every morning when Arnold walks into his living room, he sees the chess table where Franco used to sit, and he smiles at the memory. On the 6th anniversary of Franco's passing, August 30, 2025, Arnold posted what he called the last chess game. A photograph showed the two legends sitting across from each other, cigars lit, chess pieces arranged between them. They were just starting their match, frozen in that moment of friendly competition that defined so much of their relationship. Arnold wrote simply that it had been 6 years since Franco left, but he remains present every single day. The post generated millions of reactions. Fans shared their own grief stories. Fellow bodybuilders paid their respects. People who'd never even met Franco felt the weight of Arnold's loss because his words carried such genuine emotion. What these tributes reveal is that Arnold isn't just mourning a training partner or business associate. He's mourning the person who knew him before the fame, before the movies, before the political career. Franco knew Arnold when he was just an ambitious Austrian kid with an impossible dream and a thick accent that everyone said would prevent his success. What makes Arnold's ongoing revelations about Franco so compelling is the complexity they reveal. This wasn't a simple friendship between two guys who happened to share a passion for bodybuilding. This was a relationship built on genuine affection, but also complicated by ego, by competition, by controversial decisions that damaged both their legacies. Arnold manipulated Franco psychologically to push him harder in training. Franco enabled Arnold's questionable comeback victory by coaching him during the actual competition. Arnold promoted the 1981 Olympia, where Franco won under suspicious circumstances. They pulled off schemes together as bricklayers that bordered on fraud. They achieved greatness together, but also compromised the integrity of their sport. Yet through all those contradictions, something undeniably real connected them. When Arnold talks about Franco now, you don't hear justification or excuse-making, you hear genuine grief. You hear someone who lost not just a friend, but a mirror, who reflected back his truest self. Franco was there before Arnold became Arnold Schwarzenegger, the brand. He was there when Arnold was just an ambitious immigrant trying to figure out how to survive in America. Franco shared the struggle, the hunger, the desperate early years before success arrived. That kind of connection can't be manufactured or replaced. It's forged through shared hardship and mutual understanding that transcends later complications. 6 years after Franco's passing, Arnold continues finding new ways to honor their friendship while revealing aspects of their relationship that paint a more complete picture. The Netflix documentary showed Arnold's raw emotion when discussing Franco's lack of recognition. The anniversary tributes demonstrate how Franco's presence remains woven into Arnold's daily routines. The admissions about manipulation and mind games reveal Arnold's awareness of how he sometimes exploited their power dynamic. The promises to care for Franco's family show Arnold taking responsibility for honoring his friend's legacy beyond mere words. Each revelation adds another layer to our understanding of what these two men meant to each other, and what their partnership meant to bodybuilding history. The story of Arnold and Franco challenges simple narratives about friendship and loyalty. They weren't perfect friends. They weren't always honest with each other or with the sport they represented. They participated in controversial comebacks that damaged bodybuilding's credibility. They pulled schemes that benefited themselves at others' expense. Arnold positioned himself as Franco's superior even while acknowledging Franco's greater pound-for-pound strength. Franco enabled Arnold's questionable decisions because of loyalty or perhaps because of his own ambitions. Their relationship contained elements of genuine love alongside manipulation, sincere affection alongside calculated self-interest, deep friendship alongside competitive ruthlessness. But maybe that complexity is what makes their bond so fascinating and ultimately so human. Real relationships aren't clean or simple. They're messy, contradictory, filled with moments of beauty and moments of questionable judgment. Arnold and Franco's friendship survived decades because they accepted each other's flaws while pushing each other toward greatness. They accomplished things together that neither could have achieved alone. Arnold became the biggest action star on the planet, while Franco built a respected career as a chiropractor and fitness author. Arnold governed California while Franco served on state boards. They appeared in movies together, trained champions together, built businesses together. Their lives were so interconnected that trying to tell one story without the other becomes impossible. The ongoing nature of Arnold's tributes reveals something else important about grief and memory. 6 years might seem like enough time to move past losing a friend, but Arnold's continued revelations show that deep losses don't follow neat timelines. Every anniversary brings new reflections. Every milestone triggers fresh memories. The chess table in Arnold's living room serves as a daily reminder of Franco's absence. The counting of repetitions during workouts echoes with Franco's voice. The photographs scattered throughout Arnold's life preserve moments that can never be recreated. These aren't signs of being stuck in the past. They're evidence of a friendship so profound that it permanently altered Arnold's internal landscape. What Arnold's revelations ultimately demonstrate is that true friendship transcends death, survives controversy, and outlasts the temporary glory of competition. Franco Columbu won't be remembered primarily for his Mr. Olympia titles or his strength records. He'll be remembered as Arnold Schwarzenegger's best friend, the person who helped shape one of the 20th century's most successful individuals. That legacy matters more than any trophy. Arnold won't be primarily remembered for his bodybuilding controversies or even his movie career. Part of his legacy will always be his devotion to Franco, his willingness to publicly publicly express vulnerability about their friendship. His commitment to keeping Franco's memory alive through honest, sometimes uncomfortable revelations about their complicated relationship. The bodybuilding world will continue debating the controversies surrounding their 1981 Olympia victories. Sports historians will argue about whether those competitions damaged or elevated the sport's profile. Critics will question the ethics of their bricklaying schemes and their onstage manipulations. But none of that analysis can diminish what existed between these two men. They met as young athletes in Munich and forged a bond that survived 54 years of triumph, scandal, rivalry, and genuine affection. When Franco's heart stopped during that helicopter flight to the hospital, part of Arnold stopped with him. The man who played the Terminator, who governed millions, who achieved seemingly impossible success, found himself confronted with the one enemy he couldn't defeat, the permanent absence of his best friend. At 78, Arnold Schwarzenegger continues breaking his silence about Franco Columbu, because the story isn't finished. Memory doesn't end when someone passes. Love doesn't stop when the physical presence disappears. Arnold sees Franco at the chess table every morning. He hears Franco's voice during workouts. He shares Franco's wisdom with millions of followers, encouraging them to value friendship before it's too late. The revelations will likely continue as long as Arnold lives, each new tribute adding another dimension to our understanding of their extraordinary partnership. Some friendships define us so completely that we spend the rest of our lives unpacking their meaning. For Arnold Schwarzenegger, Franco Columbu was that friendship. The partnership that challenged him, changed him, and ultimately completed him in ways no amount of success or fame could replicate. The ships may have sailed over the horizon, but Arnold can still see Franco clearly. In every chess piece, every repetition, every morning in his living room, Franco remains present. That's the power of true friendship. It transcends physical presence and survives in the daily rituals that remind us we were never really self-made. We were shaped by the people who stood beside us, pushed us forward, called us on our nonsense, and loved us despite our flaws. Arnold's continuing revelations about Franco aren't just tributes to a fallen friend. They're acknowledgments of a fundamental truth. We become who we are through the connections we forge and maintain. Franco Columbu helped Arnold Schwarzenegger become Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold makes sure, 6 years later and counting, that nobody forgets the man who made it all possible.